In this tutorial, we're going to be making these shiny coins, and I'll break this down to two parts. In the first part, we're going to make the 3D model along with the procedural textures, and in the next part, we're going to make our own customized shader so we can make this cool stylistic effect. So let's get started. Okay, so starting off with a new project in Blender, delete everything here, and we're going to start with a mesh, a plane. So we're going to use this mesh to generate our 3D model using a 2D image of a coin. So we're going to subdivide this many times. So go to edit mode, right click, subdivide. I'm going to do this the max amount of times, which is 100. And then with everything selected, subdivide again 3 more times. So essentially the more vertices we have, the high quality our model will be. And to add our image, we're going to need to add a modifier. So add modifier called displace. Now down here we can see texture. Go to it and hit new. So we're going to load our image here. Here's our coin. Now if we go to object mode, we can see here, using the 2D image, we already have a 3D looking coin. It's pretty cool. But it does look pretty weird, so go back to modifiers, to our displace modifier here, and adjust the strength level. See, as we go to minus, it looks more like it. Do something like minus 0.05. Pretty good. And what we're going to be doing is obviously removing these corners here, but also we're going to be optimizing this. If we go ahead and apply this modifier here and go to edit mode, you can see there's way too many vertices for this shape we want. To even put more perspective, up here we have overlays, 10 on statistics, and here we can see 164,000 vertices, way too much. So we're going to be keeping that in mind as we go on. So go to side view, and in X-ray mode we're going to select everything under the very top. Go ahead and do that, and delete. Grab everything again and scale it on the z-axis and just hit 0. So now we get a flat model. Now we want to delete all the faces and vertices we have in the middle. We only want the outer edge essentially here. So let's grab everything and we're going to extrude upwards, something like 0.125. Yep. And in order to get our edge, we're going to, let's see, go to side view, select the bottom bit, and going to select sharp edges. Yep. So if we look at the bottom, we don't want this, but the top, that's pretty much it. So that is our outline which we want. So go to side view and deselect the bottom bit, and with the top bit selected, go right click, separate by selection. So we have moved the edge to its own mesh, separate from all of this. So you can delete this one now. Nope. And there we go. That's exactly what we want. But as you can see, if we zoom in, it's pretty pixelated, right? So we want to smooth this out. So that means we're adding another modifier. So go to smooth. And make sure you're in object mode. As we bring up the repeat, you can see it smooths out the vertices. Apply that. Go to edit mode. This is a lot better. So we went down to 100 something thousand to 6k vertices, but we can do even better. Let's grab all of this, Control E, and now we're going to unsubdivide. So you can see we still have a good shape even though there's a lot less vertices. Let's go for 3 iterations, 4 iterations. See, 4 looks a bit weird, so let's go back to 3. and keep that. Cool. Now, making sure everything's okay. There is a little issue you may run into. So, some cases, like here, in these corners, there can be a bunch of vertices grouped up together like this. It's pretty weird. We want to get rid of that, and it's pretty easy to do. Just select everything, hit M, and we're going to merge by distance. So let's try a distance of 0.001. Nope, 0.01. There you go. Make sure everything looks right. Yep, cool. And now, with everything selected, we can go ahead and fill in the shape with faces. So just hit, all you have to do is Alt F. There you go. So with a lot more vertices, we already have the nice shape going just under 1K. That's really good. You don't need to be in X-ray mode anymore. Cool. Now let's have our 3D coin shape from this. So go to edit mode, select everything, and we're going to extrude downwards now. 0. Make sure you're doing minus 0.15. Okay. But to make sure this is a realistic coin, we don't want to see this a flipped face of the image underneath it. We want it to see the same side always. So that does mean we're going to have to duplicate this. So Control V and rotate it on the y-axis by 180. And as you can see, because the origin point was offset like that at the center of the world, rotating it 180 brought it exactly where we want it, right below, perfectly. Okay, and as you can see, yeah, the next thing we're going to fix is this, so we definitely want to fill up the center so we're going to see the other side. So let's add in our last shape. Let's add in a cylinder. Way too long, let's bring down the depth. Something like, let's go 0.15. And the cool thing here is, if we bring out the radius, we can even get a cool edge going to our coin. Something like that looks nice. You can make it however you like. And now, last thing to do, although we have our shape, we want to merge all these meshes together. So we're going to use an add-on for this. So go to Edit, Preferences, and search Bool Tool, and make sure that is enabled. So now what we can do is select all the meshes, hit Control plus. You should see like a bounce around our meshes, and to merge them together, just go Control Shift Enter. There you go. And now we went from 160k vertices all the way down to 3k, and we got a beautiful looking coin. Nice. Okay, so now that we finished our model, let's quickly create the procedural texture for it. So go ahead to shading, and down here we're going to create our material. So add a new one and call it coin. So we want this to look sort of metallic, have like a brushed sort of like misty look. So to do that, we're going to, let's add some randomness to this. Let's add a noise texture node. And if we feed in the factor straight into the base color, we can already see what it does. But you may notice on the sides of the coin, the texture is being stretched weirdly. We want it to be evenly mapped out. So we need to use the UV maps of our object. So in order to do that, we need 2 more nodes back here. We're going to add texture coordinates. Feed the UV into another node called mapping vector. Yep. so it's of type point, and it's going to go into the input vector of our noise texture. Still looks weird, and that's because our UV maps aren't updated properly. So that's pretty quick to fix. Let's go to UV editing, select all the vertices. Here we can see the UV maps right now, and to update it, hit U, and we're going to do Smart UV Project, and you'll see the changes on the left side. Hit OK, and here are the correct UVs. So if we go back to shading, now we can see the texture being wrapped around our model properly. Just to see, let's scale up the noise texture. So that looks a lot better. And now we can just play around with this. I'm gonna scale it something like 10 maybe. Bring the detail to the max. Roughness, I'll leave it at like 0.5ish. The lacunarity, do something like 0.25ish. That's right. And I don't really like distortion, so I'll leave that at 0. So it's looking pretty lifeless. It's because there's no color. So what we're going to do, instead of adding a simple color node, we're going to use a custom property. That way we can use that color across our different materials with ease. So inside the object properties, add a new custom property at the very bottom. Let's edit it. So let's call this tint, and it's going to be of type float array. So yep, a length of 3 RGB, and the subtype needs to be linear color. That way when we go and press OK, we have a color property. Give this any color. And now to use this, pretty easy to do, we're going to add a attribute property and put in the name, which is tint, and make sure the type is object, otherwise it's not going to work. So we want to sort of mix the tint color with our noise texture. So let's add a node, mix color. So the noise texture feeds into A, and our attribute color will feed into the B. There you go, now we can see some color on here. We don't want to mix though, we want to do multiply. And bring the factor to the max, which is 1. Now our tint is applied nicely. Very cool. We can change it to whatever we like. This is sort of to see, what is it going to look like in Unity, because this property will really be in Unity. And we're going to export this texture as completely white. But just to see what it's going to look like, we'll leave this on. One thing I don't like about this though is it's pretty blended together, these shades. We wanted to have more contrast, so let's bring this forward, and we're going to say before the noise texture goes into the multiply node, we're going to add one node in between, which is color ramp. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell it how the factor value is going to influence the color in terms of, in this case, brightness. So values nearer to 0.5, halfway is going to be dark. That way you can get more contrast by bringing the darkness and the lightness more close to the center, like so. So once you're happy with the texture, the way it looks, you can move on to adding the next texture, because what you may notice is if you look at this dead on, it's pretty hard to distinguish it from the background. The dragon is hard to see. So we want the inner part to have its own texture, probably something that's like darker. So we're going to need to go to slot, add a new slot, and this is going to be using, go to coin, and you see the 2 because it's being used twice. If we click on the 2, it will duplicate this as its own separate texture. Let's name this instead to inner. and go back to coin and rename this to outer. So to see our inner texture, let's apply it to the inner parts of our coin. So go to edit mode, change the select mode to faces, and we're going to select the inner parts here. If we get inside the tongue, yep, and the underside, yep, that looks good. Now go to material, to inner, and hit assign. Now if we make changes to the inner material, we can already see can make the outer part a lot more distinguishable. So I'm going to change up the scale, maybe a bit the linearity. I would like it to get darker as well, so we're going to need another node here. That's going to be, let's see, color, hue, saturation, and value. So after we multiplied the noise texture with the tint, we want to change its value. I'm going to bring it down so it's a bit darker, something like 0.4, and we are done with the textures. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and export the model along with all its textures so we can use them in Unity. So starting off with the textures, we're going to need a image texture node so we can bake into it. The image texture, and it's going to be a new image. Let's call it bake. Okay. Duplicate this in the outer material as well. They both need to have one. And to see the image, we're going to go to the top left corner of this view, drag it to the right. So now we have a third window, and this one's going to be the image editor. Open up the bake image. Now as you see, it's empty. So we're going to bake into it. To do that, go to render properties, make sure the render engine is cycles. Now look for bake. So yeah, make sure there is no direct lighting, no indirect. Set the bake type to diffuse. And with your object selected, one more thing I forgot to do. Make sure the tint is white, since we're going to be adding the tint in Unity. Make sure it's white. Back to render engine. We're going to hit bake. Now wait. Once it's done, it should look something like this. And now the image is ready to be saved. Let's rename it to texture. Go to image and save as. Yeah, I have a dedicated folder here, and just hit save. Now moving on to the model finally. One last thing I'm going to do before I export, I like to right click and tell the GPU to shade smooth. So this is going to smooth out the vertices, and it's going to make our custom lighting reflect off this and make it look a lot nicer actually. So now go to file, export. I'll export it as an FBX file. Open the folder, and with the default settings, we can export. So let's name this to Koins and hit export. Now in a brand new Unity project, you can go ahead and add your coin assets like I have here. I'm just going to drag in a model. Let's fix the rotation. And here it is. This is without any textures. So let's go ahead and drag our texture map right onto it. And here it is with the outer and inner material which we created in Blender. Now we can see it created Unity standard material here. And with this we can pretty much, the best we could do is adjust these properties like metallic here. We also have smoothness. We can give it a tint like we could in Blender. Let's try to do something similar. Something like that. that's all for this video. In the next part, we're going to be making our own custom shader, so that way we can make the lighting exactly the way we want it. We're going to pretty much like exaggerate these reflections, you see, to make this coin super shiny and stand out in our scenes. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!